Welcome, everyone, to Dr. Todd Talks Tunes, Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Actually, it's not called Attack of the Clones. Today's episode is Music is the Art of Time, in parentheses, not sound. Very often we define music, we all define it a little bit differently, but we define music generally as the art of sound. For example, if we look at a couple of textbook definitions of what music is, we're going to get varying definitions. Webster's dictionary defines it very longly as the science or art of ordering tones or sounds in succession, in combination, and in temporal relationships to produce a composition having unity and continuity. Wikipedia, my favorite place to not go, says music is an art form, a cultural activity, I like that, whose medium is sound. They don't say anything about time. And so that's kind of my I guess the reason for this topic today. This particular subject has come up in a variety of different lectures talking about different types of music, and this point that music is the art of time comes up often enough. I thought it warranted a whole episode on its own. Not that we need to find an answer to this. Really, it's more about just the discussion about this particular subject. But one thing that all pieces of music have in common is a beginning. They all have a beginning. They all have an end. They all exist in time. This is part of what separates music from some other art forms like sculpture, painting, architecture. These things are static. Music has to exist in the realm of time. For that matter, ballet, other forms of dance that are accompanied by music, also exist in time, but in a visual display. But those art forms rarely exist without music. So we could say that ballet and dance are dependent on music, much like opera is. Opera is a telling of a story. Has a story. It may have dialogue if it's an operetta. If it's completely sung, it's an opera. But it relies on music to keep track of the time. And that's something that we've been doing in music for a very long time. Is how we organize music. We use meter. We use a time signature, something we call a time signature at the beginning of the piece that tells you how to divide the time going forward. Is it in 2, 3, 4, 7, 9? How many beats are there going to be in a measure, and then what type of note is going to get the beat in that measure? For example, you can have things in 2, like the Beethoven I play at the beginning is in 2. 1, 2, and 1, 2. 1, 2, and 1, 2. Really tough. Very creative. Anyway, so is like the flower duet, for example. It is also in 2, but it's in 6/8. 1, and so forth. We can have a number of different compound meters, things in 12, things in 6, things in 9, which really represent, I should have done those in order, quote, subdivisions of 2, 3, and 4 to correspond with 6, 9, and 12, for example. So we use meter, and we occupy and subdivide every part of the measure. We can, if something's in 4/4, and we have a whole note that takes up the whole measure, well, 2 half notes equal 1 whole note, or 4 quarter notes equal 1 whole note, and we can keep subdividing down. So Western music, classical music in particular, is divisive. We can keep dividing the layers down and down for an ultimate level of control of time. And then it's like what sound then corresponds with that moment in time. But really the music is organized really first by time. We can also indicate how fast we want something to go. In other words, we can tell you maybe what meter it's going to be in, 2, 3, or 4, depending on different dances exist in different meters and things. But then how fast does that go? Is it a fast waltz? Is it a slow waltz? And so there's lots of information in the music that pertains to time. changes in time. You get to a piece of music and they're like, we want you to go faster now. And so they put an indication in the music saying go faster or slow down. So it's very interesting to see how music, the art of sounds, couldn't exist without time. The most important element in music really is not whether you're singing the right note or not, it's whether you're doing it at the right time. You can sing all the right notes in the world, but if people aren't doing it together, it's going to be chaos. And really, that's the opposite of music. It's really chaos. Excuse me. Music, by default, is very often organized by title into time. We have the adagio movement in a larger work, or a scherzo or something like this. Very often the name of the piece is indicative of the speed that it's going to go in a relationship to the time. But the ultimate example of this is John Cage and his piece 4 minutes and 33 seconds, which some of you may not know. I have my own arrangement of this piece that I've done for choir, and it is called 1 minute and 19 seconds. And it's basically the same basic thing. Here I am making a joke, and yet I think it's very interesting in music that 4 minutes and 33 seconds often is brought up in jokes. Just in case you want to know, musicians aren't really interested in jokes about music unless it involves a viola player. If it involves a viola player, we're fine. We're cool with it. Or an oboe player, or a soprano. If it's about a soprano, we kind of like it. You ever hear about how many sopranos does it take to change a light bulb? And my answer is, you ever seen a soprano change a light bulb? I think I've ever seen that happen. So we have lots of jokes, and there's a lot about 4 minutes and 33 seconds. Oh, it's just a bunch of rests. But I think people don't understand this piece. And so I want to take a moment just to talk about that this piece isn't about silence. Silence is obviously an important part of music, but this piece is not about silence. This piece is about the audience making the music. And so what happened, Cage figured out that 4 minutes and 33 seconds would be the right amount of time for people to not know what's going on, realize what's going on, and then react to it. And so, imagine he comes out, sits down at a piano, and doesn't play anything. And it's really quiet. But after a while, he doesn't play anything, and people start rumbling. They're like, what's going on? Why isn't he playing anything? And there begins a rumble. And then that rumble kind of builds up to a climax, and people figure out he's going to sit there for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. And then they realize that, and he's going to sit here. Oh, he's just going to sit here for 4 minutes. And then it goes on, and then it gets quieter again, and then it gets to the end, it gets super quiet. And then he stands up, takes a bow, and everyone applauds. And really what it is, it wasn't a piece of music celebrating silence. It was a piece of music that was created by the rumblings of the audience, and it created a natural arc. And so that's kind of the misconception with 4 minutes and 33 seconds. It isn't about silence at all. It's about kind of putting the joke on the audience, if you will. But it's interesting that this piece of music, with everything else about it stripped away, there isn't one note played. There isn't an instrument. 4 minutes and 33 seconds does not neatly fit into our definitions of what music is supposed to be. And what else was he left to call it after everything else had been stripped away? He was left with nothing but time. Time is what defines 4 minutes and 33 seconds. Sounds ridiculous when I say it out loud, but that's exactly what it is. It's time. Time defines a piece of music. More so than sound, in 4 minutes and 33 seconds is really, I guess, if you will, the proof of that. So this is a topic that I think is very much open for debate. But as you listen to music and experience music, think about its relationship to time, not necessarily to tonality or harmony or some of these other elements, but think about how music exists within the framework of time. Thank you for joining us today. My name again is Dr. Todd Samra. I'm happy to be your host and looking forward to see you next time in episode 3 when we talk about the music of Sting. Thank you for joining us today, and have a great afternoon.